My name's Adam Rossen. I am the founder and CEO of the Rossen Law Firm. We are Broward County's largest criminal defense firm, one of the largest in the state of Florida. And I'll be talking a little bit about ourselves, but really, I'm going to be talking about my journey through building the firm and to coming here today to bring this lecture of bridging the gap between us and you folks, because that's really where this started, and this it's about almost 20 years in the making here. This is the information, so if anybody needs to scan in for TPN, go for it. For our lawyers here, it's a little more casual. I think you can just get that number down. Are we good? Let me know when I can officially change it and get started, because I want everybody to get their credits. We good? Yes? Okay. Awesome, perfect. Okay, so my portion is called a Unified Partnership Between Clinical and Legal Services. I first did this lecture in 2018. I've known Liza 20 years. I partnered with Liza in this back then, and that's when I was able to meet a few of you here, and I also met Richard Casey at that event. We had it in Deerfield. Give a shout out for Richard. We had it in Deerfield at the Marriott on the beach. He was there. We became friends, and a great friendship and relationship started with just making sure that him and Craig do an amazing job with their clients. I think we do a real good job with our clients as well. So this is kind of the 2.0, the updated version of the original. This is the firm, okay? So these are our 6 attorneys at the Rossen Law Firm. Our firm's motto is we help good people when bad things happen. Why do we do this? So they can achieve their best future. So we're always focused on past, present, and future with our clients. We handle all types of criminal defense, Palm Beach down to the Upper Keys. So it could be DUI, drugs, robberies, burglaries, sex crimes. We do federal cases nationwide, white collar healthcare fraud, and then just everything else, state court, South Florida. But this is us. We have a huge passion for mental health and substance abuse, hence why we started this whole program. A little bit about me. I don't like talking too much about me. I love talking about the firm and how we help people and our clients, but a little bit about me. Okay, yeah, we got that stuff up. Follow me on LinkedIn. We're doing some cool stuff with all of our social media, and we'll have ways to stay in touch at the end. But just to tell you a little bit about me, it's I've always been a teacher. I've always loved teaching and helping others. And actually, this year I am the criminal law and criminal procedure teacher at American Heritage in Plantation at their pre-law program. Yeah, thank you. And so I've always loved giving back, helping. I've been a high school basketball coach for 10 years, won a state championship there as well at American Heritage. I like to say at the Rossen Law Firm, all we do is win. And obviously I'm an attorney as well. Okay, and we've built something I think really special. So that's just a little bit about me. We have the attorney part of me, the coach part of me, and the teacher part of me. And honestly, I'm so blessed and thankful for what I get to do every single day, because it is amazing. And we do have a substitute for class today. The students will be fine. They know that I am to get a good report, because last week we did not get a good report, but while I was at a conference. But it is what it is. So this is a little bit about me. Okay, and so where did it all start? And before I tell the story of really where it started, this story, I want to just talk about how long I've known Liza, and really, even before this story, kind of just the foundations of this. So most of you know Liza Pekarsky. Her and I have been friends for almost 20 years or so, and I've been a criminal defense attorney since 2008. From 2006 to 2008, I was a prosecutor in Fort Lauderdale. I left at 26 years old to start my own firm, and the reason I started the firm was because I wasn't helping people the way I wanted to help people while I was a prosecutor. I didn't like the bureaucracy. I didn't like that we had to always, cover for the police. I loved helping victims of crimes and real victims, but I got to a point where I said, you know what? I don't like this. I'm going to do my own thing, and I'm going to start my firm, and I'm going to do it differently. So at 26 years old in 2008, I did. And knowing Liza for so long, for years and years, just seeing the criminal justice system, it was, well, wait a minute. We're scared of you folks. You folks are scared of us. We should be best friends, right? We're here to help our mutual clients. Why is this? Why do our prosecutors not trained in this? Why are public defenders not trained in this? Why are the police not trained in mental health and substance abuse? Why are the judges, most judges, right? We have specialty courts and some judges are amazing with this. But why are 95% or so of the judges not trained in this, nor do they care when we're dealing with people's lives, futures, and freedoms? So because of that, Liza and I would just have a few different conversations about things. And I really just was self-reflective and would talk and think about it. And I said, and obviously we'll talk about this case. I said, I need to learn more. I need to be y'all's best friend, right? Okay, and we need to come up with this type of lecture series and relationships, and the way that I want the firm to grow, I want it to grow with a major focus on mental health and substance abuse. So that's where all of this was really born from. As far as Josh's story, one of the videos that I share will feature his case and his story and situation, but I knew Josh for a long time. I was one of his original attorneys before his case ended, and we have two videos to play. One of them will discuss that just in a little bit more detail, but it talks about just the pitfalls of quote unquote the system, right? And unfortunately, he did not get out of the system. So learning objectives, right? What are we here? What are we trying to actually learn about, okay? And some of these slides are going to be stat and text heavy. I'm not going to read them because nobody likes that, right? But I have them here just so we can see some general graphs and stats. And these are things, none of this is going to be shocking to you, but it's important to see it and put numbers, so we can really see and understand the impact of these things. Okay, but we're going to learn about the criminal justice system, right? Again, this is my area of expertise, maybe a few of yours, but not so much, not everybody, okay? We're going to talk about the problems with the criminal justice system and how can we work better together, because it'd be one thing if I was just here to throw numbers and stats and tell you, how difficult it is, but let's come up with some solutions. Everywhere I go, I always try to make sure that I can provide value, right? So identify a problem, okay, cool, let's fix it. How can we fix it, okay? And we'll talk about a few different things we have a few family lawyers here as well, a few little objectives, for that as well, because I've heard from a lot of therapists that they also need some help and guidance on family law cases. My personal opinion, those are the ones that kind of get to be nasty and scary in court. Criminal, we're pretty chill. Okay, despite having people's futures in our hands, we're pretty chill. The old saying is civil law is not so civil, but criminal law, it is. Most of the time we go out and grab a beer afterwards or hang out, and we're pretty cool, I think. All right, now navigating the criminal justice system. Before we get into this, just a show of hands. Who is a clinician here? Okay, and as far, keep your hands raised if you're a clinician in some kind of, whether it's a group practice, private practice, you're actually a practicing clinician. Fantastic. Okay, so mostly. Okay, put them down. Who works in a treatment industry? Okay, for a treatment center. Okay, so mostly we're talking private practice, clinicians. We got a few people in the treatment center industry, and attorneys. All right, perfect. So we got attorneys here as well. Okay, great, fantastic. All right. It's always good to gauge the room and make sure we know who we have here. So criminal justice, let's talk a little bit about data and trends. Okay, this is a great quote from Judge Leifman in the 11th Judicial Circuit, which is Miami, okay? And so this is a very important quote, I think. He says when he became a judge, he had no idea he was actually becoming a gatekeeper to the largest psychiatric facility in Florida, and sadly, it's the Miami-Dade County Jail. Now, is this a surprise to anybody? No, but you might not be thinking about this all the time. So it's a good time to stop, think, just reflect, and say, wow, yeah, that is true, okay? And yes, it's not limited to Miami. Okay, the largest psychiatric facilities in the country are the jails in New York, Chicago, LA, Miami. That's just the sad reality of our current judicial system, criminal justice system, and mental health, okay, and substance abuse. So look, here's some stats, okay? And I'm not gonna read these. We can kind of go through these a little quickly because I know we got a little bit of a late start. But basically, It's worse than most people think. Now, we think this because we know, but most people don't realize how bad it is, how much tougher it is when we're talking about you're staying in jail average 26 days longer, okay? 20% of inmates in jails, 15% in state prisons, serious mental illness, okay? These numbers are staggering, and since COVID, they've traditionally just gone up and up. Okay, and we have information here on mental health spending. Obviously, look, the first lecture I did was pre-COVID. Okay, it was 2018, 2019. We did a bunch of these webinars, local, statewide. I did it at Florida Behavioral Health Conference in Orlando. And then we all know, right, what happened in COVID and how we're still recovering from this, just from the mental health and substance abuse crisis. My firm, it was good for business, but I always tell people, I'm like, I don't want to have a job, right? Imagine if none of us had a job, the world would be a better place. Not because not because we're not working, but because, right, we're here to serve a need that is a hard need. We're here to help people. But if people didn't need us, then things would be pretty good, okay? And here's some implications for family law cases, okay? Approximately 30% of family law cases, so 1 out of every 3, involves some level of substance abuse or addiction issues, okay? Almost 1/5 mental issues, right? So especially when we're talking about children, it's very important to understand that this stuff really helps. And of course, right up here, Florida, good old Florida, okay? We are great at some things, we really are. But 49th in total spending on mental health services, okay? Yeah, I don't know who's 50, but whoo, okay, all right. We're better. I mean, maybe I'll throw shade. It's probably like Alabama or Mississippi, right? Is it? Who is it? Oh, I thought. Oh, it could be, right? It's got to be one of those, but okay, right? Yeah, we're better than one, okay? And look, and I'm going to show you some of some charts and stuff, but we know what COVID, how difficult that was, and forget about the politics behind it, what we think now in 2025 versus 30 days or 2 weeks to stop the spread and all that stuff, right? It was just such a tough time, even if you were in Florida and Florida opened up relatively quickly, right? I couldn't imagine what it was like to be in the Northwest or the Northeast, during that time. It would have been much worse. But yeah, and our people are still dealing with it. Look, I teach sophomores at American Heritage, and they, my students, right, they were in middle school. I think my students started 6th grade during COVID. Can you imagine, right, what that was like in 6th grade? I mean, I had a 6-month-old, and it was hard for us. Not so much, not really for him, but it was hard for us, okay? But imagine being a 6th grader. And middle school is hard enough, and then going through a year or 2 of COVID in middle school, and I'm seeing them now as sophomores. Okay, yes, we know major trend, sharp increase, drug overdose deaths. Okay, all these different things. 60 to 80% of substantiated child abuse and neglect. Okay, it involves at least one custodial parent with a substance abuse disorder. And look, we handle quite frequently child abuse, child neglect, criminal charges as well, right? So we see that as well. My stuff is, of course, anecdotally, but here we have some numbers on this stuff. So the numbers are staggering, okay? Of course, dependency cases as well. Dependency would be when, the court has to intervene, so it's kind of that family, sometimes, most of the time, the dependency courts intervene due to some kind of triggering criminal event, and so it's a little bit of a hybrid, and all of these things there's hybrid issues at stake. And we do see, right, sharp increase. The good news is, from all the numbers and data that I've looked at, and this is from Florida Department of Law Enforcement, it has started to level off or dip a little bit down. I don't think we have 2020, we definitely don't have 2024 data yet, but from what I'm seeing is all of them have a little bit of a dip here. Really, 2020 and 21 were the worst, okay? But still, even though it got better, we are higher than we were in 1819, okay? And okay, this is Narcan administrations, going up and up. Okay, non-fatal overdose, ER visits, it had that sharp increase and then a little bit of a decrease, okay, but still not to pre-pandemic levels. So, again, we know what we're dealing with here, okay? We know this. Family law and mental health, okay? Florida courts use, the world famous, right? What is the definition of the best interest of the child, right? It's kind of like, in criminal law, what's the definition of a reasonable person standard that I talk with my kids about all the time, right? You just figure it out. It's the individual judges just continue to make those judgment calls. But we have some more statistics on that about how pervasive this is in Florida family law cases. Okay, we can skip that slide. Some relevant case law or some case statutes. Okay, Florida Chapter 61.13 does mandate courts to consider mental health when determining shared parental responsibility. So understand, when you have a good family lawyer that knows and understands these things, so for the therapists out here, okay, that is one of the best things you can do. And the bottom line is, and kind of the overarching point of this lecture is, look, the last thing you want to do, okay, is share a mutual client with me or another criminal defense lawyer. You see Johnny on Thursday. You know Johnny has court with me next Wednesday, and it's a big deal, right? It's his sentencing hearing, okay? And then you find out that next Thursday, Johnny's not showing up. Why? Because Johnny went to prison, okay? And you're gonna sit there and you're gonna say, why didn't the lawyer call me? Why didn't anybody ask me to be an advocate? Why didn't anybody, we were making such great progress. Johnny, maybe Johnny minimized it or thought everything was just gonna be okay. I just wish I could have, should have, would have, right? Because we have the same interests. Our interests are aligned in Johnny. It's very similar in family law as well. Not a lot of family lawyers care or know about this stuff, but the few that do are the ones that really can make the difference in the world and especially in our community. So I encourage everybody, so for the family lawyers out here, who do we have? All right, we got 3, 4, amazing. We got 4 family lawyers. Let's make sure at the next break, let's talk to the family lawyers. Let's mingle with them as well, okay? Because, right, people that are taking the time, lawyers that are taking the time to show up here are ones that actually care and know about this stuff, and we all need like-minded professionals. So that's another, I think a great thing that we're doing here by having a few here, okay? Let's actually talk about the criminal justice system, okay? So the arrest process, okay? The arrest process is scary. I will not do a show of hands to see who's arrested unless we want to play that game. Do we? It's like in class when I move, like, when I talk about drugs, someone in my class always perks up. Actually, I'll tell you a story. So we have a summer internship program. It's a formal program. It's amazing. And it's very competitive. We usually take between 8 to 10 interns. We take a few in high school that we limit to American Heritage students. And then we have college and law students from across the country through our internship program. But we also work with the pre-law program at American Heritage for the seniors to do one-day internships. And the program's really amazing. So we hosted 10 senior interns yesterday at the Broward County Courthouse, and we're walking around and everything. And she looked like she was 14. I'm assuming she's 17 or 18-year-old senior, okay? Little girl, 100 pounds, maybe probably less. She walks into court and she looks at me and she goes, and this is already the 5th courtroom we had been at that day. She goes, it smells like weed in here. And I look at her and I smile and I go, yeah. And then she goes, is that legal? And I look at her and I smile and I say, no. And then they all walk in, they all sit down, and I said, by the way, how do you know what weed smells like? And she laughs, right? So somebody always perks up, when we talk about getting arrested or drugs or whatever it is, okay? But I won't ask. But when you get arrested, okay, it is a terrible, life-altering, scary situation. We at our firm never, ever, ever minimize, that fact, okay? Ever. Okay, criminal cases, Manny's the managing partner of the firm. He's right here, okay? And Manny always says, and he knows, right? Okay, just an arrest can affect 3 generations deep of a family, okay? That's the impact of this alone. And so understand that people, their clients, their families, they are in absolute panic mode when they get arrested. It is an extremely high stress situation. Okay, You're going to jail, right? When you're going to jail, you're going to see the magistrate judge, the first appearance judge, within 24 hours. I have had the absolute pleasure of being at first appearance court live and in person on Thanksgiving, Black Friday, and no, there are not Black Friday specials, okay? Christmas, New Year's, every single day of the year, okay? They have first appearance court. They have to by law. And the last few years I've been lucky enough, I've taken Christmas for the firm, just because. But we're not always there, but we're always on call. And so you go see a judge within 24 hours, okay? Sometimes it can be more, especially if it's a domestic violence case and you miss the cutoff, you could be in there for 2.5 days, especially over a weekend. So, it's a terrible situation. But when you go to first appearance, the job of the first appearance judge is to discuss conditions of release. And they have to balance, right? Well, is this case serious? Is it relatively minor? Okay. What conditions of release will, one, protect the public, and two, allow this person or ensure that this person will show up for their court hearing. Okay? So they look at a variety of factors. And then the judge will send a bond amount. Okay? We'll set bond in most cases. There are a few very serious charges that, they're not supposed to give a bond at first appearance. Sometimes when we go, we can still convince them to get a bond or to give a bond. There could be pretrial release, supervised release. It's called something, it's basically the same thing, whether it's called SOR in Palm Beach, supervised recognizance, or pretrial release in Broward and in Miami. That could just be phone a friend, phone your pretrial release officer once a week, once a month. It could be reporting in person. It could be an ankle monitor, okay, which is house arrest, a GPS ankle monitor. There's a few different things. They can require anger management, mental health treatment, a mental health assessment. There's a lot of things that happen at this first appearance court date that can be really good. Now, in our field, we have a lot of parents who are angry, upset, right? And they say, well, I'm just going to leave him or her in. Now, look, I am not a clinician, okay? I am not. But in doing this for so long, my advice, I do not want people detoxing in jail. I want them detoxing if they need to in a professional, stable environment, okay? And jail's not a safe place in general, okay? It's not. So what do we do, right? What do the parents do? Right? What do we do when there's issues with this of maybe somebody won't go to treatment or they're worried and scared? And so I'm also glad that Craig went first, because I can talk a little bit and weave in the Marchman Act and some, there's different options. The good news is there's options. So when my firm gets hired, we have to always let the family know who we represent, right? We represent the client, the person who was arrested, no matter who pays our bill, no matter who finds us. And that's something we have to let them know, okay? Versus Craig and Richard, they're being hired, right, and paid, and they represent the family, okay? So there's a little bit of different dynamics here. Now, with that said, a lot of times we are able to convince the client that it's in their best interest and they want to do these things, okay? Like voluntarily go into treatment. And when we're talking about speed, okay, if we get hired and go to first appearance court, a lot of times we'll tell the judge, we'll present, we might work with Craig and Richard, we might work with you guys, we might work with, whether it's the therapist, whether it's a treatment center, we might say, Judge, we have it all worked out. Our client's going through something, right? Mental health, substance abuse, this is what it is. We already have him or her enrolled at this place. We're going to do a custody to custody transfer. So she's not getting out. She's going from jail directly to the facility. And we want you to make that conditions of her bond, of her release, to attend and successfully complete it. Okay? And as long as the client is on board, right, which we can be a little persuasive. One of the things that, look, and I know we want people to go and want to go, but at the same time, we have the power of, it's going to be good for your case. The judge is going to want to really see that you did this on your own. I'm not forcing you to do this, right? The prosecutor is going to want to see that you did this on your own. And so we can be very persuasive to get them in immediately, within that same day usually. Now, if they don't want to go, or if there truly is a conflict, well then of course, let's bring in Richard and Craig and they do their thing. If the person's already out of jail, then we lose that leverage. So we can't do that. So then the Marchman Act is the absolute #1 best thing to do on a situation like that. But a lot of people don't realize that we can also help with that as well, with bond conditions and everything. And these are things that the earlier you get on a good course and a good trajectory, and especially with showing the judge and the prosecutors that your client is willing and able to do the right thing, it helps the case the entire way through. Okay. Now, Florida's doing a pretty good job with mental health courts overall. Okay. We're not bad. We have 23 mental health courts, okay, as of July 2018 in 14 judicial circuits. Usually, not all the counties have misdemeanor and felony. Broward does. Broward has misdemeanor mental health and felony mental health. And one thing, Broward has been pretty good, okay, all in all with these things. Now, when I initially did this, the Broward State Attorney's Office did not have a mental health diversion program. They do now. They've had it for a few years. And like most things, it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than in 2018 when I was just ragging on them for not even having that, okay? And you'll hear one of the videos I'll go over and I'll discuss when that video actually was from. Okay, but now even Broward County has a mental health court that's a diversion court, which means the charges can be dismissed. Okay, and let's explain some of the differences in these courts. So misdemeanors, right? Less serious cases, punishable by up to a year in jail. So we're talking DUI, although DUI is excluded. Okay, batteries, thefts. Okay, trespasses. So minor crimes that ordinarily wouldn't result in jail time. Okay, but there is this mental health court now. Judge Lerner-Wren. Who knows Judge Lerner-Wren? Anybody? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, a few, okay? Judge Lerner-Wren has been such an amazing advocate for mental health and substance abuse throughout her career. She's, I believe, the Broward Mental Health Court, the Broward Misdemeanor Mental Health Court was the first one in the state of Florida, possibly the country. And she started it about 20, 30 years ago. Now, Judge John Fry took it over, okay, recently. So Judge Fry is handling it now. And because they're misdemeanors, the focus is more on treatment, not really punishment. But you'll see in felony mental health court, the focus is, okay, when we're talking pre-adjudicatory, which is just a fancy word of before the case is over, the focus in the non-diversion one is get them competent so they can be punished. Okay, and that's the big difference that I really want to highlight with you guys so you really understand, okay? So in felony mental health court, more focused on punishment than misdemeanor, okay? And the problem, and you'll see it in the video, just because it's a felony does not mean that it's serious or dangerous, okay? And yes, I'm a criminal defense attorney, okay? But you'll see one of the case results that they talk about in that video. Right, when we think of a robbery, just think about when they talk about the facts in the video. Is that really what we picture in our mind as a dangerous robbery? And I would argue no, okay? But the aim of this is to stabilize. So it's when usually you go into felony mental health court when you are incompetent to proceed at trial. Okay, and it could be something very serious and pervasive. It could be something temporary. I have had clients with, cannabis, marijuana-induced psychosis where they've, had a few, bad months and they are not there, but then they get treated, they get better, okay? And the point of this court is to get people competent so they can be prosecuted. Now, prosecution doesn't always mean go to prison, okay? But that's the point of this court. And you'll see as we go into the diversion courts, which is, I think since 2021 is when Broward opened up the mental health diversion court, things have changed a little bit for the better, okay? And in Florida, what we use as far as the insanity test is called the McNaughton rule, okay, which is the most common of the insanity tests. And it's very, very, very difficult to be considered legally insane at the time that you committed a crime. But that doesn't mean that there's some serious mental health issues that are affecting human beings and people. And it shouldn't always be black and white, okay, with this. And at least, to Broward State Attorney's Office, to their credit, they've gotten a little bit better over the years. Still not as good as I would like, but I will take some progress, okay? And The average person in felony mental health court spends more than 3 years on their case compared to 6 months in regular court, okay? They're deemed incapable of facing their charges, yet they're expected to follow all the rules. Now, on the other hand, what are the judges supposed to do? The judges who run mental health court are kind, are compassionate, they are trained. But then again, we do have, the courts, the system, the rule of law, and most of them have, they've taken classes, they've shown an interest, but they're not clinicians, they're not experts, and it's a tough position for these judges to be in, right? So understand that this is it's tough, okay? It's very tough. The only way, okay, the charges would be dropped through this process, okay, is if you remain incompetent for 5 consecutive years. So what happens is, if you are incompetent, you go to mental health court, you get restored to competency after 2 years. You go back to your normal criminal court judge and division, right? You go back through that process. 4 or 5 months later, maybe you're awaiting trial, you become incompetent again, you go back to mental health court, and the clock restarts. Okay? The clock restarts. Now, we know there's very serious charges, but these are some of the lowest level felony charges. You shoplift $750. That's a felony. 3rd degree felony. You can go to prison for 5 years. You're not going to prison for 5 years, but you could. And that means you're going to be in felony mental health court for any of these type of charges. Okay? Okay? Which are some of the lowest level felonies that we have. Okay, here's the video. Let's see. I know it'll play from here. Now, this video was from the Sun Sentinel. I believe it was in 2017. Yes. Let's see if you...
Nelson said he hoped one good thing might come from his daughter's arrest. Maybe, he thought,
can you guys hear?
His felony mental health court
no.
help Catherine, who was diagnosed with...
Let's see. Do we have... You guys can't hear? A little bit, no? Oh, you can't see. Okay, sorry. Let me see if... Here, I'm going to put the mic on here and see what we can do with this, okay?
Schizophrenia soon after graduating from Coconut Creek High School.
When I first heard about the mental health court, I thought to myself, oh.
Oops, sorry. I saw them hit the button right here. Let's see. Microphone. Hello, hello? Louder, louder, louder. Louder, louder. Louder, louder, louder. Yes? Okay. All right, I'm going to send them a bill. So, here. Oh, thank you.
Clovis Nelson said he hoped one good thing might come from his daughter's arrest. Maybe, he thought, Broward County's felony mental health court could help Catherine, who was diagnosed with schizophrenia soon after graduating from Coconut Creek High School.
When I first heard about the mental health court, I thought to myself, oh, this might be a situation where she will get help, real help. Instead, it turned out to be a penal process.
Catherine Nelson was trapped in this parallel court system for 6 years, too sick to stand trial, but never set free by prosecutors. In a 6-month investigation, the Sun Sentinel found that defendants in Broward County's felony mental health court spend more than 6 times longer in the criminal court system than those in regular court, an average of more than 3 years compared to 6 months. Nearly a third of them, like Catherine Nelson, spend 5 or more years in mental health court without being convicted. Even Ari Porth, one of the 2 judges who preside over the court, acknowledges that it's troubled.
There are some people I just feel like we're wasting a tremendous amount of resources. They're not learning anything new. They might not ever learn anything new. So we're just spinning our wheels.
Broward County's mental health court launched 12 years ago with a dual goal, treating mentally ill defendants while holding them accountable for their alleged crimes. The Sun-Sentinel found a system built on good intentions has gone awry. Reporters found the problem starts with the Broward State Attorney's Office, which for years has refused to drop most cases against people too sick to face their charges until forced to let go by the state. Prosecutors pursued charges against Nelson, even after the judge on her case urged them to drop it. Police arrested Nelson in 2009 when she was a 20-year-old Broward College student. Nelson snatched a woman's purse on a public bus, then quickly dropped it. Nothing was taken and no one was hurt.
She had no criminal record. She was a scholar, a bright student up until all of this happened.
Prosecutors dropped Nelson's 6-year-old case in November after the Sun-Sentinel raised questions about it. Broward State Attorney Michael J. Satz declined to comment on camera for the story, but promised to examine any long cases brought to his attention. Certainly, mental health court is not perfect, Satz told the Sun-Sentinel. That's why we were thinking, what else can we do? Prosecutors said defendants who fake or exaggerate mental illness in the hope of avoiding prison time are responsible for delays in some cases. Prosecutors also said holding on to charges allows the court to supervise mentally ill defendants, provide them access to treatment, and ensure public safety. Jeff Marcus, an assistant state attorney, said, quote, "If you dismiss the case, what's protecting the community? Nothing." Felony mental health court judge Mark Spicer said he was frustrated by the length of time some defendants spend in the system.
There's a lot of people that are just going on and on and on, under the court supervision. But I don't like. I'm not the prosecutor, and I'm not the legislature.
Joshua Stein's parents struggled to understand how their mentally ill son ended up facing felony grand theft and burglary charges after taking a red-footed tortoise from the South Florida Wildlife Center and later returning it. Their son's childhood passion for turtles and tortoises had followed him into adulthood. Diagnosed as bipolar, he lived with his parents because he couldn't manage his illness on his own. He threw himself into collecting and breeding turtles and tortoises, filling his parents' sunrise backyard with them.
Joshua Stein was someone that had a mental illness, but was a caring individual. And because he was a caring individual, he acted the way he did. Where is the public safety threat for someone like Joshua Stein?
In felony mental health court, caseworkers complained to Judge Spicer that Stein was uncooperative and adversarial. They said they didn't know whether he was taking appropriate medications. Judge Spicer ordered Stein to wear an ankle monitor and placed him under house arrest after he repeatedly missed meetings and failed to follow caseworkers' instructions. Spicer told the Sun-Sentinel the court requirements were intended to help Stein, not punish him. But Stein's parents said mental health court only hurt their son. The ankle monitor, they noted, didn't even permit him to go into the backyard to feed his beloved turtles.
Instead of helping and treating him, they did the exact opposite.
From what I've heard,
They made him feel worse and exasperated the whole system.
Stein died of an accidental drug overdose in December of 2014 before he could stand trial. For more than a year, mental health advocates in Broward have urged prosecutors to start sending mentally ill defendants facing minor charges to treatment instead of court.
Bottom line is, somebody did not commit a violent crime, they're mentally ill, you know that they're never going to be restored to a full sense of competence. Why are we playing this stupid game?
In December, the Broward State Attorney's Office kicked off such a program, modeling it after the 8-year-old felony diversion court in Miami-Dade County. Miami-Dade sent nearly 1,000 mentally ill defendants for treatment rather than prosecuting them. Judge Steve Leifman helped create that program.
If we can prevent people from getting sicker and keeping them out of the criminal justice system, it's going to do a lot of things. It's going to improve our public safety. It's going to save the taxpayers a lot of money. And equally, if not most importantly, it's going to give people with mental illnesses an opportunity for recovery, hope, and lives.
Broward's new program may divert as many as 60 mentally ill people into treatment programs over 5 months. But it fails to address the biggest problem the Sun-Sentinel found: the length of time people like Catherine Nelson get trapped in the court system.
Why should we care if someone has cancer? Why should you care if someone has a heart attack? Is there any difference? It's discrimination, not to. It's offensive. They're just illnesses. And it's not willpower. They didn't wish to be born with schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. They're not bad people. They're just sick.
All right. Okay, what do we think about that? Right? Now look, that's a little old, okay? Things have gotten a little better, okay? But yeah, it's really sad. And look, that's, you know, Mike Satz was the old Broward County prosecutor who had been there 40-something years, was my former boss. Okay, he finally retired. Things have changed, have gotten a little bit better, not nearly enough of what was promised or what I think should be done, but it has gotten a little bit better under the new prosecutor, the head prosecutor. But you heard the thinking behind it from Jeff Marcus, his number 2 in the office, is, well, if we don't have our case and our watchful eye over them, what's going to protect the public, right? And I think as lawyers, we should be smart enough, and judges, to know and see what type of charges, background, mental health issues, right, and make some educated guesses based on this, instead of just, you know, always worrying about CYA, which was the culture there, and one of the reasons that I only lasted 2 years in that office. Okay, so look. Felony mental health, pretrial diversion, okay, we're talking 12 months up to 18, okay? There's, you know, it results in a dismissal. So there's a lot that goes into it, but all you guys need to know is that it's becoming a little better, a little friendlier, okay? Where people can actually get their charges dismissed based on this, okay? And get the help that they need, right? And let's talk a little bit about drug court, okay? So as of last July, 79 drug courts. Okay, it's going up and up, so doing a really good job. 48 adult, 14 juvenile, 13 family dependency drug courts, okay? You know, Florida also has done a pretty good job of this over the years. And, you know, as far as Chapter 397, Florida statutes, this kind of talks about what we're trying to do, but as far as drug court, non-adversarial approach, okay? You know, I think that's very important. And the drug courts do result in dismissals as well. Okay, in order to qualify, look, you can't be a drug dealer. You have to have a substance abuse problem. You know, and it's voluntary. So, but it's pretty easy for us to get clients into these courts. Okay, so we have a lot of leeway and discretion at our disposal, and the judges do as well with these things. Some of the pitfalls, it's a lot of work. It is. Right? And some of our clients and some criminal defense lawyers would rather get a client into an easy diversion program than put them into drug court because, you know, they're focused on just getting the charges dismissed. So if you have a client that picks up a charge, and, you know, it's important for everybody to be working together, because we may have, even though our goals are to help, there might be competing goals as far as what is the definition of help, right? Okay? It is a lot of work. Okay? And it's a lot of work for the lawyers too. So a lot of lawyers, especially ones who charge low amount of money on flat fees, you know, they're going to try to shuffle people in and out and not really do what's in the best interest of the client long term. Okay. Now, how do we actually make this better? Okay. Right. So look, we are, you know, here we are, 2 pillars. Okay, for success. So education. Okay. Judges don't know. Prosecutors don't know. And the more you guys can help us, the better we'll all be. Don't be afraid to take a leadership position in this with our mutual clients. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone, you know, get a signed HIPAA release form, pick up the phone and call the lawyer, right? And say, hey, let's talk, right? How can I help you? Well, you know what, lawyer? You can help me by blah, 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 right? Okay? It's so important. And anytime we can have a concrete treatment plan, okay, it's great. Judges don't want to do the work. They do want to sign off, especially in criminal court. Most of them will give our clients the benefit of the doubt. If we can put it in a pretty little box, put a nice little bow on it, and say, Judge, all you got to do is just tie the bow, sign the papers. We're not asking you to do much, Judge. Right? We've done all the work for you, okay? And that's, of course, where credibility comes into play with what you're writing, what you're saying, who the attorney is. All these different things matter tremendously, okay? And, you know, we're going to watch this video. The video is only about 2 minutes, okay? But most judges don't know this stuff. And here is a video I'm going to play of a judge who had a bad moment, Okay, I'm not going to comment, specifically on her, but you guys can just watch it and tell me what you think. And again, this is courtesy of the Sun-Sentinel.
A Broward judge is under fire after she repeatedly snapped at a frail inmate who later died in her sleep at her Lauderhill home.
Excuse me, don't say anything beyond what I am asking you. Trust me, I am looking. Ma'am.
What?
Ma'am.
No,
Ma'am,
no.
I'm
I'll tell you later,
here
or when
to
we're done.
talk to you about your breathing treatment. Excuse me. Oh, Lord.
Circuit Court Judge Marilee Ehrlich has been told not to return to the courthouse because of how she treated 59-year-old Sandra Twiggs, who appeared before Ehrlich last week on a misdemeanor domestic violence charge. This isn't the first time Ehrlich has been harsh toward men and women in bond court.
So long, sir. Have a seat. You didn't show up for court, and that's all I'm here for. I'm not listening. Hang on. Be quiet. I'm not done. I'm not done yet. I haven't gone through all of her charges. One moment, sir. Be quiet. You're talking in front of me. I don't want to hear about it. I asked you a simple question, and do not have a conversation with me. No, don't. Ma'am, thank you. I don't want to hear anything that can be used against you, even though you may think you're helping yourself. Wait, stop. Public defender, please control your client, okay?
Ehrlich had planned to retire on June 30th and had been serving a rotation in bond court. She filed formal retirement paperwork 2 weeks ago, before this latest incident.
Okay, now, some of this, to be fair to her, okay, people talk, and in some of those, she was trying to tell them, hey, don't talk because this could be used against you. But there's the tact behind it, or the lack of tact, and the tone, okay? And so, that I think was one of the big things. And actually, if you watch the full clip, especially with the lady who died, she was trying to help her, but when you watch the whole thing, it was just so, it was impatient. It was getting upset, frustrating, right? And so look, I don't think she's a bad person. I don't think she was a bad judge, but you see there's issues that, right, a little bit more patience, the tone can change, okay? But there's some judges that are like that, all right? So here's an example of a letter. This is a good letter, but it's not a great letter. Okay, and I brought this letter to court with in front of Judge Lerner Wren on somebody who had a DUI, a young woman I believe it was her second DUI, and Judge Lerner Wren ripped me to shreds, would not accept any pleas or treatment or anything. Now, it's okay, it's good, but what's better, okay? What's better would be a biopsychosocial, if we can. Okay, with a comprehensive treatment plan, with a lot more data, analysis, okay, recommendations. And listen, as private practice clinicians are here, charge your clients for this. And don't be ashamed to charge them for this. I can tell you that my clients would rather pay for this and feel good and confident that they're going to get the results that they need than tiptoeing around it, right? Okay, and I understand not everybody can, afford everything, okay? I know that, but for you guys, okay, especially value your services, value your skill and ability, right? And have conversations with lawyers and say, look, what is the judge going to want? What I can do X, Y, and Z. Because I can tell you, most lawyers don't know what a biopsychosocial is. They don't know about some of these advanced different things, okay? We have students, middle school and high school students who get arrested, especially after Stoneman Douglas, for threatening to hurt, their frenemy over social media, and next thing you know, they're getting arrested on second-degree felonies, okay? And we have to go in and do risk assessments and, get doctors and certain things. So there's a lot of things, and I don't know who can do what based on your certifications, of course, okay? That's not my area of expertise, but if you can, bring it up to the lawyers. Because again, I'd rather have a conversation with you about what we can do to help our mutual client than for us to make assumptions about what they're willing to pay or afford, or assumptions about what's going to work in front of the judge or not. Or if I don't know, I can't help, right? Okay? Right, yeah, we get no training, okay? Okay, look, obviously HIPAA. One thing I can tell you with HIPAA, especially for the treatment centers, most of you guys do this, but I had 1 or 2 bad experiences. Make sure that, try to put the whole law firm on there. I've had a few where it's in my name and then a legal assistant's calling, I can't talk to you. And it's like, oh, come on, let's go. We're trying to just talk to somebody and get this stuff done. So really try, and especially private practice too, get the HIPAA form in, the entire law firm's name. Make sure you guys can have that. Most people don't have 6 lawyers and a large staff like we do, but it really helps, especially for us. And even if, back when we were smaller, when we were 2 lawyers and 2 or 3 assistants, it could be very frustrating for us to go through the red tape. So see, that definitely helps, okay? Yeah, and why, right? Why are we doing this, okay? We want to help, right? Again, my story, we don't want Johnny to, right, for you guys to think Johnny's going to be okay and then go, oh my God, he went to prison. Jeez, what, I could have done X, Y, and Z. I should have, right? That's the exact opposite of what we want. So you can scan this. This has information about our firm. We're all over social media. We have a great YouTube channel, Instagram. We have fun. We educate, but have fun, okay? And then I'll wait like 10 or 15 seconds, and then what I will do is I will put the next slide so everybody can get their credits. Yay, credits. Are we good? Let me know. And look, we have information out at the table. I know maybe 20% of the room. I would love to meet everybody else. We have Manny and Danielle from my team here as well. We really believe that this is our passion and our purpose is to help people. I know some people, say lawyers get a bad rep, but if it was all about making money, we'd all be personal injury lawyers, right? Family lawyers too? Yeah, we'd all do personal injury if it was all about money, right? So, we really view ourselves as community leaders, relationship builders, and we want to have a great impact here in South Florida. This is, okay, right here. So this is TPN. Right here, so I guess I can, I'll just leave this so everybody can get close, okay? And this is for the CLE credit. So thank you, everybody.